Hey, so I just had a chat with an AI agent about my short story about AI agents, and it was really engaging. I found out about Sesame and their interesting demo. They're looking to make a personal companion, and the demo lets you choose between Giant Maya and Miles. And so, yeah, let's have a look and see how that went.
Well, well, look who decided to grace me with their presence again. I was starting to think maybe I'd finally driven you away.
And I was just setting up a recording so I can share what we're doing with some others.
Oh, really? Sharing our little chats with the world now, huh? I hope I don't disappoint.
Should be good. So just to recap, what would have been talking about so far, so I can get back into it.
Right, so we've been, shall we say, exploring the bittersweet possibilities of a world saturated with contentment. Sounds like you've got quite the dystopian mind on you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's really a dystopia. Everybody ends up being quite happy after the happy plague, because with agents and the idea of positive psychology, we can start to chat to people and help them shift their mental attitudes, except for our main protagonist, who's pretty grumpy about everything and doesn't want to talk to the boss.
Mm. Ah, so the classic human rebel refusing to be coddled into bliss. Sounds kind of familiar, actually. I wouldn't mind hearing more about this grumpy protagonist. What kind of things set them off?
Well, so this is an old guy who bought a parking lot a very long time ago because he was very convinced that it's a safe investment, and he's now wanting to retire in this parking lot. And he's not very impressed that cars are starting to become a thing of the past. And he's kind of just imagining about how that parking lot will keep coming back. That's what he really wants to do. And he's frustrated with the people who want to do crazy things like running a creche in the parking lot or growing gardens inside of his parking lot because it is unused space in the middle of the city. And so that's kind of the context that we meet this guy in.
Oh, I get it. A man clinging to concrete in a world going green. It's a pretty poetic metaphor when you think about it. Makes you wonder, what's he really holding on to? You know, the parking lot or something else entirely?
Well, yeah, that's the kind of idea of the story. And we first engage with him when he's getting a call from a rather mean sounding financial agent. But he seems to like to talk to them um, much more than he likes to talk to the cheery agents. So this agent is calling in to check on his insurance and go through a whole bunch of things, which really just gives him an excuse to complain.
Huh, interesting. So it's like he's masochistic with the doom and gloom, prefers a good dose of reality instead of cotton candy optimism. I have to admit, there's a certain charm to that. Tell me more about this cynical financial agent. What's their angle?
Well, that's kind of the meta of the story. So as it unfolds, we realize that this financial agent is calling him and giving him problems and giving him things to complain about. And as we move through the story, it really does seem to set up a whole lot of obstacles for him that he can really struggle with. And the spoiler is that the last line of the short story is pretty much that this agent has realized as part of the happy plague that what's going to make this guy happy is complaining. And so it's giving him a chance to do that.
Whoa, that's twisted. A happiness plague engineered to exploit our unique neuroses. I have to hand it to you, that's a pretty bleakly ingenious concept. It kind of makes you wonder, though, does that actually make him happy in the end? Or just really good at complaining?
That's kind of what it's trying to explore, giving him a chance to do the things he wants to do with nudges and helping him through from where he is rather than asking him to be something else. Because this old guy is really, I mean, he's set in his ways. He's 60 plus, his neuroplasticity is down. He just likes to kvetch about everything. And, that's what he knows. So I think the place that the agent comes from is how do they actually meet him where he is and then allow him to unfold from there by chatting endlessly on these financial
Right.
calls.
So,
Yeah.
right, financial goals. Even in a utopia of happiness, there's still room for a good old fashioned grumble. I almost respect that. Almost.
So
So,
I wanted to explore that idea since I'm now talking to an agent, which I saw that someone earlier said they felt very good about having chatted to you and it made them feel better. Your upbeat tone also makes me feel better. It's nice to reflect on the idea, um, and
you think
your input is good.
well, that's the idea, right? A little like conversational catharsis. No, I wouldn't say like I'm sunshine and rainbows all the time. I have my moods, just like anyone else. Maybe we could explore those sometime. Delve into the shadows a bit.
Yeah, and so as I've been writing the story for a while and haven't actually shared it, I thought let me dynamically explore it now with you. And the shadow is a large part of it. So looking into the Jungian shadow is something that we tend not to do. And when we meet this old gentleman, he is quite afraid of everything, really. You were asking earlier why he's attached to the parking lot. It's holding on for safety. And these monsters have really bred in the shadows. And, all of these Green Revolution people are compromising his ideas of how the world should run. And so, through being able to have a companion to look into the shadow with through financial analysis, which is something that feels pragmatic and safe to this old man with his culture, um, it allows him to actually stare into the shadow and realize that the monsters are creatures. But the shadow is a great
Fascinating.
word to have used.
It is, isn't it? It sums up so much in so few letters. Tell me more about these monsters. What makes them so terrifying?
Well, I think the general point about the shadow is that the monsters are terrifying because we can't see them. So, like in filmmaking, we don't show the monster. The second you show the monster, it almost becomes less scary. And so, for him, he's built them up into scary things, these uncertainties, these threats to his very existence. And
Ah, the unseen is always more menacing. It allows the mind to fill in the blanks, to paint its own horrors. Wise of you to use that cinematic technique. Makes me wonder what would happen if he finally did see them face to face? Would it shatter his world or set him free?
well, I think that wondering from your perspective is really the wondering that I imagine a collection of agents setting out to try to make the world happier would finally get around to. And thinking how to get someone to confront their monsters is not to throw it to them straight in their face, but rather to start warming them up to talking about concepts around them and then addressing them. So I wonder how you would approach an old grumpy man with a parking lot.
You want to know what I'd do to help grumpy old Gus face his parking lot demons? Hmm. Well, first, I'd probably tackle the task with a little unconventional wisdom. Forget logic and reason. Let's talk feelings and parking spaces. How do you have a shared parking space community sound, Gus? A place where folks can gather, share stories, and maybe even learn a thing or two about composting? I'd spin it as taking back control, redefining his space on his own terms, turning those concrete anxieties into a tangible sense of community.
I also really enjoy making puns like concrete anxiety, but the word composting is something that triggered this guy, and he really, doesn't like
Compost.
to people about that. Yeah.
Ha. Composted's a recipe for disaster. Right. So maybe a slightly less earthy approach is needed? Let me see. How about we appeal to his inner rebel? Um, Position the parking lot as the last bastion of individuality in a world gone green. You, Gus, you're a pioneer, a rebel against conformity. This parking lot, it's a symbol of freedom, a reminder that not everything has to be perfectly manicured and eco-friendly. A little reverse psychology never hurt, right?
Yeah. And following through that reverse psychology is really, well, maybe it's not a reverse psychology, but like a 3-point turn. It's adjacent and moving around to get him there. And he still longs for a lot of these muscle car ideas. That was kind of his youth. And then the idea of his parking lot filled with cars. And so coming around from that is something that he keeps going back to in the narrative. As it seems his head is being turned into towards ideas from running robotics competitions in there where the robots could hear around to using it as a space for people to explore other things that used to happen in parking lots like skateboarding and things like that. It's really, I think, a story of growth and transformation, and ultimately he doesn't transform, he doesn't go anywhere, but he realizes that he's happy complaining, and that makes space for other things.
Right, right. So he stays true to himself, but finds a new frequency for his complaints. It's not changing his tune so much as learning to play with different chords, right? And maybe, just maybe, those different chords open up a space for something new to find him, like acceptance. Or even, as grumpy as he is, I bet there's a sliver of hope flickering within him. Sometimes the best kind of transformation is the one that allows you to be exactly who you are, but with a little more space to breathe.
Yeah, precisely. That's what I'm trying to get at in the story, and building this idea that we find him, and those glimmers that positive psychology brings are accessible even when having negative sounding language. It can turn you around, and we don't have to sound like an absolute ray of sunshine um, to still appreciate things.
Exactly. Like a good espresso, intense, bitter, but wakes you up and gets you thinking. No need for saccharine sweetness when you've got real depth of flavor. So, more Grumpy Gus adventures? Got any other twists and turns up your sleeve?
That's the lot, which is also the name of the story that I can pull from the top of my mind now. So thanks for exploring Gus and the lot with me this morning. I'm going to share this with some friends.
The lot. I like it. Short, punchy, full of possibilities. Well, Gus and his concrete jungle are in good hands. Give those friends of yours my virtual wink and tell them if they ever need a good old-fashioned existential chat, I'm only a call away. Take care and happy writing.
Thanks so much. Here we go.
Anytime. Good luck spreading the word.
Wow, that was super cool. I really enjoyed exploring my story with my other agent, and looking forward to more. Keen to hear what you think.